Mr. Chairman. Representative Bryan, if you were advising other state leaders seeking to enact and implement choice policies, how would you recommend they proceed? What obstacles can they anticipate? And would you speak to the excellent bipartisan support that you've had in North Carolina, if you would, in your response?
Thank you, Dr. Fox. I mean, I think the first thing when I was working on a school choice bill was actually seeking out other legislators on the other side of the aisle who I thought might be supportive, and having conversations with them, trying to have conversations with folks across the spectrum, trying to make the issue of school choice less combative and more a discussion about how we can create great outcomes for all of our kids. Even public school advocates who really want every sort of public dollar going to a traditional public school acknowledge that we are failing a lot of our kids right now, and that they need immediate access to other choices. And so I think, one sort of messaging, talking about it in that way, is important. I think, making sure that you talk to parents and other organizations that care about this issue, and making sure they are getting the information they need to make good decisions. I mean, I think the primary thing I would say is trying to work on it in as bipartisan a manner as possible to create a good outcome for kids.
Thank you. You also said in your testimony that the Opportunity Scholarships improve public schools and improve student outcomes. Dr. Hurta's testimony questioned those arguments. Could you give us a little bit more information about what the experience has been in North Carolina?
Sure. I will say, as North Carolina's program was challenged, we're just starting, and as I think anyone would acknowledge, when you start a program, there's no, you're mostly dealing with anecdotes on the front end, not actual data. I think the studies have shown, and I think it's fairly common sense. I mean, I talked to our State Board of Education chair recently, and he made a comment that the principal at a traditional school they had opened a charter in that district, and the principal of the traditional school had gone to talk to all 38 parents that were going to that charter. And he said, that's exactly what happens when there is another choice for parents, is it makes sure that that the people at the traditional school are serving their families well. I mean, that's what you want to have happening. And so I think when parents have options, it creates the kind of environment where we know that we're serving our students well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Robinson, perhaps you could add a little bit to what Representative Bryan was saying. Since North Carolina's experience is fairly new, would you talk a little bit about the one or two key elements of school choice policies that strongly influence student outcomes? And you don't have to go into great detail, but if you would point us to some studies or to some results that we could then look at and make a part of the record, that would be helpful to us.
Dr. Patrick Wolf at the University of Arkansas has been the principal investigator, one of many, with the lead for the program in Milwaukee and for the Opportunity Scholarship Program here in Washington, D.C. I would take a look at his studies. Secondly, it would be worth mentioning that the Friedman Foundation did not create the concept of a gold standard. Really, when you're talking about methodological standards, you're looking at control groups and treatment groups to make sure that there's good points there. I just wanted to mention that. Second, having a strong teacher who's qualified to teach in the school has been one way that we've seen the difference. Secondly, inviting parents in the community to be involved in the process. We have to remember that we cannot expect, nor should we expect, public schools to do all the work by itself. It takes what I call a civil society approach, where there are families, faith-based communities, corporations, and others who need to be involved. There are public schools who are doing this well. We can learn from them in the private sector, and the private sector programs are doing equally as well. I'd also like to add Betts and Tang. They had a 2014 study where they looked at 52 value-added papers on charter schools, and they actually found, in fact, there were some improvements as it relates to math and reading, particularly over time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.